A warm hello and welcome to everybody. This year, of our webinar series titled Marketing Mondays, we have been doing webinar Marketing Mondays almost every fortnight. We have been touching upon various topics of interest to the marketing fraternity, and you can watch all the past events on demand at www.cxotv.news. Well, digital disruption is a state we will be in for a long time and is defined by the disruptors and the disruptions in the marketplace. That's not me who's saying this, but this was predicted by Gartner in 2017. It's a coincidence that when, after deciding today's topic, I was Googling as to what does the market say about digital disruption or disruption in marketing. This is the exact Gartner document with this heading. So, as we have all seen, as a marketer, yes, because that's marketer is the front face of the entire evolution of business, and that we are the people who get, I'll say, hit first with any disruption that happens in the market. At the same point of time, the technology is disrupting at a greater pace. So the pace with which technology is disrupting, we need to live up to that. We need to match that pace to ensure that we are top of the mind recall for our target customers. There are issues like this as to how to ensure that we are there when Amazons and Flipkarts of the world are taking away the customers of every segment, and many more, which we will be discussing with our elite panel today. The eminent marketers today who have joined us are Mr. Kunal Aman, Head of Marketing Communications from SAARC. He handles SAARC region and India for SAS. We have Mr. Dev Mehta, Director International Marketing for Virsec, the security organization. And we have Mr. Rupesh Balakrishnan, Head of Consumer Marketing ASEAN and India for Akamai Technology. Let me request the panelists for a detailed self-introduction of themselves so that we know about them a little bit better in greater detail. And Dave, why don't you start in alphabetical order?
Thank you so much, Anand, and thank you for inviting me for this panel along with my co-panelists Kunal and Rupesh. I hope everyone's keeping well. My name is Dave Mehta. I have over 15 plus years of experience, 10 plus years of experience in the security industry, cybersecurity industry, and worked with many organizations. Currently, I'm working as the director of international marketing for Vertex Systems, and it has been an amazing journey. Marketing has always been one of the core focus areas for me, and I'm very passionate about it. And glad to be working, for what I like to do every day. So yeah, it's been one amazing journey.
Thank you so much, Dave. Glad to have you on board. Hey, Kunal, why don't you go next and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Anand, and hi, everyone. Anand, thank you again for having me. My name is Kunal Aman, and I've been a career marketer, largely focused on the B2B domain with tech as well as telecom brands. I've been fortunate to have a mix of both product marketing as well as services marketing experiences, having worked with organizations such as L&T, Amdocs, AT&T, and Datamatics. I served in areas such as corporate strategy, marketing, communications, analyst relations, as well as on the tech side in the engineering front. I currently work with SAS, which is a global leader in analytics, and I primarily lead the functions of marketing and communications for SAS in the Indian and the SAARC subcontinent. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, Kunal, and it's great to have you back again. Rupesh, we are just going by the alphabetical order. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. Hi to Dave and Kunal as well. Thanks again for having me here. I'm Rupesh from Akamai Technologies. Been in the industry for about 14 plus years, and I've dabbled in advertising, sales, and marketing in different courses of my life. I think the the crux of my career journey would be to figure out how to be as close to and as productive and efficient with any product that we sell with respect to customers as possible. And that's one of the interesting turn of events for me in terms of how Akamai's my career in Akamai has shaped up to where I am now, where I work very closely with customers from a customer marketing perspective. It's a new function for us, and we are kind of defining how we service our customers a lot better. So yeah, very excited to be on this panel and look forward to all the discussions.
Thank you so much, Rupesh. Glad to have you with us. Friends, I'm delighted and honored to host such an elite panel today. The thoughts exchanged on this platform by the panelists are their own and may not represent the they work with. Thank you once again, Dave, Kunal, and Rupesh. So without much ado, let me start the discussion. Dave, I always like starting with basics. So marketing evolving during this age of continual disruption.
Yes, Anand, I think that's a great point to make. Right? Marketing isn't what we thought it was, right? I mean, since the last 2 years, there has been an obvious disruption that's going on right now, right? So I was just going through a very nice article by someone I follow called Michael Berner, and Michael Brenner is a marketing CMO, and he's been with very large organizations, and there were some really nice quotes that were made. So we are in a perfect storm right now, right? So the year 2021, 2020, all of them have culminated disruptive forces together, be it COVID-19, recession, geopolitical issues, and all of that, right? And how much has marketing been relevant in all of these situations, right? How relevant have we been, from an organization standpoint to what we cater to and what we serve, right? And that's the question that we have been asking ourselves in the last couple of years. And the disruption that has brought along with it has brought a lot of change in us. It's a paradigm shift, right? And this paradigm shift has brought in, I put it into 6 different pieces. It has brought in change, it has brought evolution, it has brought adaptability, it has brought a lot of learning, it has got technological advancements, and also it has got a lot of kind of focus on innovation, because with all of these things we've been able to kind of cater to this paradigm shift. Now when you talk about change, let's be honest, this disruption has already been there, like I said, right? It's just that the pace at which it accelerates has increased, right? Now, we already used to use video conferencing facilities. We always used to use, digital platforms, but they just kind of, accelerated during the last couple of years, and the usage of these tools, technologies, techniques has increased because of the situations that we have been put in, right? These were kind of, digital transformation journey that just kind of, became so fast that we really needed to kind of, climb onto a running bus, right? So the change that we saw was immense. It was immensely fast, and we had to evolve through it, right? So marketing strategies evolved at a rapid pace during these times. We adapted to more of consumer-centric approach. We got more empathetic towards our consumers because we did not know what the situation they're in, especially into the cybersecurity world. If I may talk about my in this industry, we've seen a lot of attacks, a lot of ransomware attacks, a lot of security breaches happening during. It was immense, and imagine institutes like the healthcare organizations were being attacked, right, in such a time. It was really something that we really need to delve around and evolve and understand how do you kind of understand the customer's need rather than throwing a product in the face of the customer, right? And then adapt to those technologies and adapt to those changes that came into, and increase our focus on what do we need to deliver to the customer to solve the problem. It was more about solving the problem. It was more about learning what exactly is the situation that the consumer is in, right? And what technology can we adapt in order to allow them to understand the solutions that you have to offer, which will make that consumer, rely on your products, rely on your technology, rely on your brand, and the innovation that comes along with it, right? And that's how all of this covers the paradigm shift that we've been got into. And marketing kind of, has got into all of these six zones and evolved in itself. We've been adapting to a lot of digital capabilities, right? We've been social media engagements have increased, video interactions have increased, podcasts, right? We've got into references. Customer references have become so important now because without that, we are not going to get anywhere. Because we just need to understand that a product pitch is no more going to work. A me attitude is never going to work. It's all about what do you need, what does the consumer want, what is his problem, how are you going to solve the problem. If you solve the problem, your half the battle is won. And your content, your communication, your strategy, your approach, your tactics, all of them should kind of revolve around one thing, that's solving the consumer's problem. And that's the shift that I see now. That's the change that I see from a product-centric approach to a problem-solving approach in marketing.
Sure. Thank you, Dave. Great opening. Kunal, coming to you, since you head the marketing communications piece, we'd like to add your thoughts on focusing on disruption in the communications horizontal.
Sure. So I think they've really brought out the paradigm shift that's happening in this whole function, right? And just to add the lens of communication here, communication has been seeing a lot of disruption over the past decade. Even before the pandemic, the rapid growth of digital as well as social media had disrupted the circle of influence of traditional media, right? And then came along the challenges of handling paid media at scale, and then there was a lot happening in the field of content creation, self-publishing, brand journalism. So there was enough and more anyways to deal with, from a communication standpoint. But then came along the pandemic, and then that turned the four P's of traditional marketing into four C's, chaos, confusion, crisis management, complexity, and all of that, right? So suddenly, communication was on the spotlight. So in those fast-moving, uncertain situations, the communication function really took center stage because they're the ones guiding leaders and teams on what to say, what not to say. They were the ones front and center again in terms of making, the employees aware about the current policies and how they are going to change. They were assuring, along with marketing, all our current potential customers, making them aware of company plans, of how a brand is going to support them. And in ways more than one, they were also setting the tone of how customers perceive the brand during a difficult time. So even at SAS, we followed this very methodology. We had set up a COVID incident command system to coordinate all our efforts through this crisis. And I think as we're reaching out with support in the early days of the pandemic, similarly now we also realized that the chaos actually presented an opportunity for innovation. So as an organization, many, and this is not just for SAS, but many organizations really started looking at innovative ways of changing what they offer to the customer and see how they can be made applicable to the current context. So, for example, within SAS, we started working on COVID dashboards for the governments. We worked with governments of Odisha, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, etc. Now, these dashboards weren't an idea that was existing before the pandemic. Right? So it came into existence only because of that. And these are the stories, from a communication point of view, that the common man cares about because it directly affects us all as citizens. Right? So again, the high impact human storytelling aspect of communication function started coming into the limelight, so that these stories actually get the attention and amplification that they deserve in the media. So I think, long story short, I really believe that gone are the days where comms and PR was all about media relations and getting your latest press releases printed out on websites, right, or on your newspapers. I think brands really today have to include crisis communication, content marketing, stakeholder management, community outreach, and then what they've alluded to, which is a human, purpose-driven storytelling, and not only in the marketing strategy but also in the PR strategy, so as to make a very positive impact.
I'm spellbound. As always, Kunal, you were like amazing. Thank you so much. The points were flowing so seamlessly from you. Uh, Thank you once again, Kunal. Coming to you, Rupesh, what sort of issues or recommendations you wish to share while marketing disruptive technologies? Since you come from Akamai.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge some of the points that Dev and Kunal made. I think some of them were spot on in terms of how communication evolved in the last 18 months, and talking about how they was referring to how the pandemic kind of accelerated some of the disruptions like what we are using now as a video conferencing tool. I think let me base my responses on in the not as issues and recommendations, but more about how where the baseline is in terms of tech disruption, and how that affects like pretty much all marketers, right? And marketing teams and other teams that we partner with. If you look at the past couple of decades, I think disruption or even incremental changes or updates to any technology or any part of the tech stack became the norm, so to speak. So especially in B2B tech, there is no escaping how we need to consistently adapt to reach customers better. I'm talking strictly from a marketing sense. But having said that, it's hard kind of to keep pace with changes given external factors like market dynamics or competition or industry trends, and certain internal factors like time to market, product consumer fit, or competitive edge, or product fulfillment, and so on. To me, all of these are really great areas where marketing can add tremendous value, and more importantly, act as a feedback engine to different teams within the organization. So instead of bucketing them, Anand, like you said, in terms of what are the issues and recommendations, let me kind of do like a problem solution sort of an approach, right? So if you were to think of a problem called having consistent and sustained adaptation to go to market, especially in larger organizations, it's hard to have that kind of consistency through key milestones of launching or sustaining a disruptive go-to-market motion. Even if you have the most robust RAS key in place, these are hard to achieve metrics. It is even more amplified in today's world where we are not meeting people in person, where we're not having the right kind of conversations. Those water cooler moments are lost. And then you have global teams to work with as well. And more often than not, it doesn't help reining in and managing incremental innovations that can come from any corner of the team. So one can definitely wonder, like, doesn't this something that is possibly the easiest thing to fix, given that these are all internal factors? But it's not. It's easier said than done. And it's kind of compounded with the next area that I think is an issue, and an area that marketers need to focus on with respect to disruptive tech. And the second thing I think can think about is, and I like to call this customer first, all next, right? So unless you're marketing a product that is absolutely new in any particular industry, your current customers are your biggest critics. So when it comes to beta or limited availability rollouts for products in key phases, listening and adapting to your adapting your go-to-market strategies will be key. So this is an overlooked area, in my opinion, in demand generation as a function. We often feel the need to follow a marketing funnel to the T, but the real magic is in truly plugging all the gaps in your go-to-market, and that's where the magic happens with customers. So if we open up all of the listening mediums when it comes to things like product surveys or messaging surveys or experience surveys, and identifying early advocates, just imagine the potential of how much one can learn from this exercise and use those learnings when the product is available for a global rollout. I can't emphasize the importance of this more. And I think this kind of ties into what I think is the next most important thing, which is empathy, right? And I'm not trying to loosely define that term. Everyone talks about it, but I think just think of it this way, right? Everyone can market or sell a product. Everyone can address pain points. Everyone can offer discounts. Everyone's service is the best. I think we can all agree to that, right? All of us as marketers kind of tend to go down that path. Tell me one organization that is willingly going to say, I can't address this particular pain point. I can't offer you a discount. I can't offer you a service that is N-1 compared to your competitor, right? This is the power of empathy. And I feel that, I'm not in the least bit, alluding to flaky marketing to put a checklist on empathy. The previous area that I mentioned, right, customer first, all next, is where the empathy factor lies. If you truly listen to your customers in making your products and services have a positive impact on day-to-day operations and build for long-term success, marketing will continue to play a defining role in how empathy towards building products and services can be a continuous exercise. If these three things, which is being consistent and adapting your go-to-market motion, having customer first in everything that we do, and having empathy kind of rolled into the entire strategy, this will kind of take your disruptive tech to the next level.
Sure. So, yeah, perhaps I'll come back again to you, Rupesh, to understand as to how do you, since it's a disruptive technology, how do you bring your customers, on the same wavelength or on the same platter, wherein to make them understand that how this technology is gonna change your world drastically, what sort of ROI it's gonna to give you. I'll come back to you again on that, Rupesh. Okay. Thank you so much, Rupesh. Dave, coming back to you, we know, we are witnessing an acceleration in the change in technological innovation, right? Rupesh also pointed out that we need to keep adapting to market dynamics. But what I see is the flux is also great. That there is both the volume and speed are increasing at an immense rate. Volume of change and the speed of change. You must have also heard that so many unicorns getting churned out almost every alternate day now. How to ensure your spot in top of the mind recall of your target group? Let's not talk about SEO.
That's a great question, Anand. And yeah, I would like to first, just take a step back and come back on the points that Rupesh and Kunal really shared, right? So they were very interesting points, right? Understanding the customer approach, having a more robust communication strategy, right? Communicating in the most efficient manner, understanding customer behavior patterns, right? Having an empathetic approach, right? All of this, is going to allow you in some way or the other to be on the top of the mind. How? With all the technologies that you're mentioning about, right? There are multiple technologies, multiple unicorns coming out, but they all have, in their own way, a problem to solve, right? So the moment organizations try and just be on the track of solving the problem that they are addressing and have their communication strategies aligned in the way that it only talks about, here is this problem that you might have identified or you might not have identified, which might affect your organization or your revenues or your organizational behavior or whatever. Then this is what you would need to kind of have in place in order to make your organization more efficient, more robust, more effective, more protected, all of that, right? So coming from a cybersecurity space, right, there is innovation on the go, right? We need to keep innovating our products. We need to make sure that we secure organizations from ever evolving threat landscape that's coming in, all the ransomware attacks and all of that, right? And there are multiple organizations doing that. So how do you differentiate yourself from that, right? Your approach should be understanding the customer's needs, right? The customer's issues. You can have a probabilistic approach, right? You can have an approach where you talk about, yes, we can detect a problem for you and then we can solve it. But is it really protecting an organization? No, it's not, right? It's not solving the problem of the customer because there are 10 different solutions who could do that. And that's the exact point where you come in with a communication strategy in which you allow them to gain confidence in your approach, in your technology, in the innovation that comes along with it, right? And in order to achieve that, you need to have a cohesive marketing plan or a strategy in which you have a 360-degree approach, right? First, you understand and identify the problem. You amplify that problem by allowing other customers and consumers to understand that this problem exists, right? They might not be aware about it. How do you do that? You create, content, research, analysis on the problem itself, and then you spread it out in the customer base and allow them to understand about it. Once that's done, you reach out to them with a solution that maps the problem, right? And how do you do that? You have your digital marketing tools, you have your conventional marketing tools that you have to offer. I mean, we don't need to go into the depths and breadths of all of those things because we all know about it. But the ideal thought process should be that by talking about the product again and again, I reiterate and keep reiterating myself, is product messaging is passe. It is about the problem solving approach. It's more about the content that you share on how you're solving a problem, right? Or how you're facilitating a customer to achieve better organizational goals and benefits and staying secured and all of that, right? And in order to do that, having a strategic approach towards communication, digital marketing, planning, execution is very important. And the top of the mind recall can only be gained if you are talking relevance. Relevance is key. If you're irrelevant, it's time, right? I mean, lot of vendors out there are talking about a lot of different approaches that need to be taken. But how relevant are you to the consumer's problem and solving that problem? If you're not relevant, the today's consumer is well educated, right? They have so many touch points to get themselves, gain that knowledge on how and what can solve their problem, right? So they already know about it. It's just they need someone to tell, here it is, here is the problem, here is your solution to the problem, right? And when you beat around the bush and you try to kind of talk about your USPs and your characteristics, it just doesn't help. Having a more focused approach will be more effective to gain the top of the mind recall. And hence, all of these tools that we use and all the planning that we do should have an end goal of making sure that you come to a point where you have a solution towards a problem, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Rather, I was thinking that since every day new and new technologies are coming in. For example, you walk into a retail store and they give you AR or VR experience, right? So should I go ahead and run for that, or should I, put more money into AI sort of stuff, and putting bots into my response system in case customers have this problem? So many times, marketers are also faced with these technological challenges, right? And you are spot on that the basics remain the same, wherein you understand the business problem first and then put the technological solution there, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And
Thank you so much.
the most important, yeah, thank you so much. So just one last point is that the most important thing that I see is the moment the customer feels that you are there for them by using various technologies, right? So I mean, just a simple example that I was kind of identify. You know, uh, I go buy a medicine from Apollo, right? They don't throw medicines at me, right? I just give them a prescription. They show, they say, okay, this is the medicine that you need, fine, and they give it to me. But then once I my medication is over, right? I mean, if I buy a strip of 10 tablets, right, and if I need to take two per day, after 5 days I'll receive a message from Apollo saying, your medication is over. You need to refill it. It's simple, isn't that the most simplest form of solving a problem of remembering your need to refill your medication? Right? It's just that simple approach. Just tell the consumer when they need to do what and what is the best approach to solve their problem. That's the key.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much. I've been taking my notes, because I don't want to lose all these learnings. Thank you so much. Kunal, coming back to you, Kunal, we saw a shift in content from print to digital, and then from textual content to video content, right? We all know that. Now there's a growing trend of shift from textual input to speech input. Alexa and Siri are taking commands now. How do you see the landscape changing from a marketing perspective?
Uh, Thanks for that question, Anand. It's an interesting one because I think we all realize we live in a data-rich world, right? I was reading an article the other day, and it by estimates of that article, by 2025, which is not very far away, an average person anywhere in the world will interact with connected devices nearly 4,800 times per day, right? Now that's one interaction every second. So that's the level of data that is getting generated, right? But I think if you really double click and try to understand why that is all happening now, right? I think it's happening because there's a convergence of forces, and all these forces are coming together at just the right moment, right? I like to call these forces the three C's of our economy. Let's look at it one by one. So the first C is connectivity, right? We only need to look at these smartphones, that we have in our hands to recall that our lives are actually tied to technology today. 4G networks have reached remote villages, and everyone, even there, aspires to have a smartphone or already has a smartphone. Right? And as we push into 5G, 6G, and beyond, each of us are actually generating more and more data. Not only are we ourselves walking data farms, our devices too are actually walking data farms. So that's the first C, connectivity. Now, second C would be computing. Right? What we are seeing is incredible advances in compute power and data storage. Right? So if you recall in 1960s, right, storing 1 GB of data, 1 GB, would cost more than $1 billion. Right? Today, it just costs 2 cents. Right? And it's not just the cost. That's one component, right? We are also seeing completely new approaches to computing. And these are driven largely by algorithmic reads of these machine learning, deep learning, and AI approaches, right? So for example, Akamai's Intelligent Edge, for example, one of the largest distributed computing platforms around, right? So that's computing. So that's the second C. And the final C would be, in my mind, is collaboration, right? It's no longer people collaborating with other people, right? People are now collaborating with machines. You talked about it, right? We're teaching them how to partner with us, be our able assistants. Uh, Alexa and Siri are excellent examples of natural language processing, and not just that. Today, machines are collaborating with other machines. Right? So take self-driving cars, for example. These cars are now communicating with other connected machines, whether it's other cars, manufacturer itself, traffic lights, satellites. You know. So what's essentially happening is that we are infusing human abilities and sensibilities in the machine, right? So that's how the landscape is really changing. So the way I see it, these three forces, uh, right, from connectivity, computing, and collaboration, they're all coming together to drive progress. And essentially, they're giving birth to something which is entirely new and a completely digital, analytics-driven economy, right? And all of this actually offers us immense amount of opportunities if used well. So right from our watches today, the glasses that we might wear in the near future, in-car displays, for example, all of them are being embedded with analytics, right? Analytics there on the cloud, analytics there on the edge. And for brands, right, what this means is it's redefining customer experience. So today you'll go and buy a Mahindra car, the new XUV 700. It has got ADAS features. The whole digital in-car display is completely different from what it used to look even 2 years or 3 years ago. Right? So it's redefining customer experience, and as consumers, we know that it's redefining our life because it's augmenting our capabilities both at work as well as in our personal lives. So the way I see it, I think if data is the new oil, then analytics is the combustion engine. So that's how that's my take on how the landscape is really changing.
Thank you, Kunal. Thanks for this, the three C's which you shared. Okay, coming back to my next question. Rupesh, with IoT taking center stage in this decade, and I'm taking it forward from where Kunal left, how do you see the marketing landscape or approach changing? What are your views on this?
I think I'll just acknowledge what Kunal just spoke about in terms of the number of devices, right, and the amount of data and analytics. This is a very interesting question, I must say, Anand. I think when I was, thinking about what would be the most ideal thought process for someone who's in the B2B space or B2C, for example, and how can they kind of infuse anything to do with IoT in their marketing mix. This is an interesting one because it's hard to believe that IoT as a mainstream concept is just about 10 years old. And if you all recall, it was something that grew from an internet connected vending machine that typically didn't work to what it is now, where a lot of analysts are predicting that there will be nearly 40 billion connected devices by in the next 4 years, so by 2025. So while it's still in its infancy in some sectors and geographies, I think IoT is already becoming deeply embedded with business processes. Now, deployments have evolved from prototypes and proof of concepts to full-scale enterprise projects. In general, when you look at IoT, there are four fundamental elements. One is the devices, so things, right? So devices and objects that connect intelligently. And the second is processes, which is basically delivering the right information to the right people, or so to the right place at the right time. The third is data and analytics, something that Kunal spoke extensively about. And the fourth is all of us people, right? Wherein the insights that we generate with the IoT things and the world that surrounds them, or and provides the relevant services that work on top of these devices. So in every sector, all these four elements will have a huge bearing on how the fundamentals of marketing get pushed to the brink. Now, why I say that is, in my mind, there are three things that we need to watch out for as marketers. I think the first thing is forget the rule book, right? The rule book, which taught us the 4 Ps and the 4 Cs and the tech adoption cycles, crossing the chasm and all of that. All of that gets rewritten with IoT-led data and insights, which gets deployed into the marketing tech stack. The second thing I think is think of the customer's journey a lot more seriously now, and use that in the way you input your marketing mix. Now, because marketers now will have access to the exact life cycle of a customer based on the devices that they currently are using, and apply the most logical nurture stream for the next best sale, whether it is an upsell or a cross sell and so on, and use that data to make more intelligent marketing decisions. And I think the third thing, which not a lot of marketers kind of think through unless you're in that domain, is security and data privacy. Right? Security is a big concern with respect to IoT, and marketing will have to play a big role in creating that sense of awareness to secure devices and the data that it's parsing. And I'm not saying that there isn't adequate awareness. I just feel that there's a lot more to be done with respect to creating the right kind of awareness. I think that's a more of a responsibility in everything that we do in marketing when it comes to IoT than anything else.
Absolutely, Rupesh. Rather, I was thinking while you were speaking about upselling and cross-selling that from marketing perspective, uh, if my Coke bottles in the refrigerator go empty, then Pepsi comes to know, and in a brand perhaps, because we have two major players, Pepsi and Coke. So Pepsi comes to know, and Coke also comes to know that my existing customer refrigerator is going empty. So let me send a complimentary bottle because he hasn't refilled while it is still in the reorder level. And Pepsi says that no, let me just grab that customer. So very challenging or interesting times ahead. And I was just thinking of perhaps another use case wherein the washing machine says that, hey, since I used Ariel, the plaque on the machine is more because that's what the AI sensors are sensing. Okay, so they send out a report automatically to Ariel, and that's where Surf Excel pitches in that why don't you use my? It would be crazy. It would be crazy.
I'm sure if it is my fridge connected to, if it is an IoT enabled fridge of mine, I'm sure if I run out of Coke, it will send a message to an alcoholic beverage manufacturer.
Yeah, then you have a lot of choices. Cool. All right. Dave, coming back to you, Dave. We keep hearing that customer advocacy, and I remember you talked about understanding customer behavior pattern. So we keep hearing customer advocacy is gaining prominence over the brand value, and it's a very bold statement that I'm making. How do you see marketing getting disrupted? Would you invest more in customer experience as compared to branding? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anand. And like we say, right, everything is at the end of the day a customer experience. Right? Your branding, your creative thoughts, your inputs, everything at the end of the day cater into how your customer is going to perceive your brand, and what is it that you want the customer to experience from your services and products that you have to offer, right? Specifically coming from the cybersecurity domain, for us, customer advocacy is the most important, right? Because cybersecurity is very important. It's critical, and it deals with critical infrastructure, right? It can collapse organizations if not done correctly, and it also kind of accounts to a greater part of the boardroom discussions nowadays. And that's where it's really important to understand that, again, like I said, when a customer kind of understands what your solution does, and it kind of adapts to it, and they find it effective, efficient, and also kind of yields in giving back to the organization in terms of revenue, and return on investments, it's customer advocacy already over there, right? They are already a happy customer, and that's what the bottom line is. Now, how do you take that to the market? How do you take that to the other customers? We need to build up on that customer reference base, right? We need to have. I don't know if it was Rupesh or Kunal who mentioned that we need to have these customers brought in together who have who share a common thought towards certain solutions and certain products, and how they are beneficial, because at the end of the day, a reference group created for an organization just helps to kind of simplify your marketing communications, right? Because at the end of the day, what are you trying to do? You're just trying to say that here is a customer who's used it, and we know that for a fact that they've used it. But it's cybersecurity. We cannot tell you how did they deploy it and what was the kind of process, because now what hackers have started doing is they've started using case studies and all of these testimonials and all to understand the consumer posture and hack into their systems. So it's getting difficult and every day to get customer references. But once you have an experience created for the customer, and when you have like a streamlined approach in how the customer will see value over the period of time, right? Be it usability, be it efficiency, cost efficiency, people management, right? How does how more lean is the organization becoming by having your services added in, right? Or it's getting more cluttered, right? All of these experiences will make the perception build in a customer's mindset, right? And once that's done, they will take it to the next level. They will take it into their peers. They will have more and more conversations around the services that have enhanced their organization and their thought process, and made them learn something new, right? Everyone over here would like to learn something from whatever they are kind of procuring, right? So specifically in cybersecurity, it's more about knowledge gaining, right? Because you don't know what's coming next, and in order to understand what next is going to come in and how you're going to be attacked, or what threats are coming in, you need to be kind of gaining that kind of knowledge in advance in order to mitigate those threats, right? So if your solutions, if your products are able to give that knowledge, it's going to be an experience for the customer that he's going to take back and give it to his peers, right? Similarly, when we talk about comparing it with branding, it obviously becomes an approach, right? So if I go more layman, right, not from cybersecurity and moving out of cybersecurity, everyone is trying to give an experience to consumer when they get into either a retail store, or you get into even a supermarket for that matter, right? Or you go into buying a car. I was that there was this example that was given by Kunal, and I just reiterated that there was this Mahindra showroom that had created a full-fledged kind of off-roading experience for the consumer for the Thar launch, right? Now that's experience that the consumer would take back for his lifetime, right? And it would also influence the buy and sell, right? Because once you kind of give the consumer the experience that they need for the product that they're buying, it's done, right? And your branding and everything will come along with it, with the experience that you're trying to give to the consumer. So at the end of the day, I think customer advocacy is very important. And if we are trying to build a customer advisory group, right? This customer advisory group is a group which will talk about your pain areas, your issues. How are they mitigating these threats and challenges? How are they kind of evolving in their approaches, right, from a cybersecurity standpoint? And when this advisory group starts advocating all of this into their peers, your word of mouth automatically spreads. And when that spreads, your branding, your visibility, your top of the mind recall, everything comes in line with it. So it's a very simple thing, right? We can, it's no need to talk about big jargons, because what will happen is that the bottom line is going to be the word of mouth and how it spreads. And that can only spread by advocacy, advisory groups, having members who talk about your solutions, your effective outcomes in a more generic term rather than like a more product branding perspective, right? So that's how I see the change coming in. And I feel that customer experience is more important nowadays over and branding and all of that just follows along with it. Because once a customer has a good experience, the brand building, the visibility, all of that is gained along with it.
Sure, sure. Uh, Rupesh, I've got a question from you from Mr. Pradeep Singh, and I'll take that up later on. But let me just move back to my next question. Kunal, that's one of my favorite ones. We always, or we heard, big elephants don't dance. What sort of disruption you have witnessed pre and post COVID, and what are the changes you wish to see, but they are too disruptive to change? If you can be a little bit crisp because we are running short of time.
Sure. So that's a really interesting question, Anand, because what I observed personally is that what we see and define as disruptive today is completely driven by the context that we live in, right? Just the idea that we could do our daily work, collaborate over video conferencing for a period of over a year would seem absurd or completely out of the question in 2019, wouldn't it? But most of us would have in fact said that wouldn't work, right? And it's too disruptive to even try. Right? Skype was invented 18 years ago. Zoom was released like 9 years ago or so. Sure, the quality was disappointing, but things since then it's been steadily improving. But I think what we really needed was an inflection point, right? And COVID-19, though unwanted and obviously very, very unwelcome, gave us that. And then the context changed. And now, because of the context change, we are now seriously talking about flexible work, hybrid work, remote work, and all of that, right? So it has got far-reaching implications. So I think just focusing a little more on the second part of the question, because we talked about disruption pre-COVID and during COVID a fair bit. So I'll just focus on what are some of those things that I think could have a bigger implication in terms of purely disruption. I think one such innovation whose time has not yet come is experiential in nature, which is related to augmented and virtual reality. There have been steady progresses made in that direction. AR filters are now becoming a cool way for brands to engage their audiences. You mentioned it earlier as well, where you're talking about retailers and e-commerce companies, doing work on virtual reality, and so there's marketing investments happening in that direction. So it has to come of age, but I also believe that it will benefit B from a immensely different context altogether, right? So we are waiting for that, but yes, that's one. Uh, the other thing is purely as a consumer, I would love to see artificial intelligence play a bigger role in curbing fake news, right? Fake news, for example, hurts behavior, beliefs, attitudes of the public, which in turn can actually endanger the whole democratic process in general, right? And that actually needs to change. Right? But that means that putting AI to work in terms of not just finding untrue claims, but also in analyzing the massive amount of social media sharing patterns, right? So I'm hopeful that in the near future, that disruption should and will happen in the areas of natural language processing, deep learning, and some of that needs to come to age. So that's the second thing. And the last thing I would say, I would really wish there is a digital twin model, right? We are doing digital twins for banking, for manufacturing to visualize uh, how the system would work in a digital or a virtual world, right? But I wish we really had a digital twin of the world in general, because uh, what really I think will change our actions is if we could see what's happening to our Earth, how our climate is changing, across the globe, how pollution is traveling from place to place. Right? If a digital twin was to exist, then authorities could actually find the smallest bushfire somewhere before it burns out of control, right? So the Earth becomes a monitoring ground for um, low Earth orbit satellites to create simulations, everything, right, from soil erosion to animal migrations, right? So um, I think the context again needs to change for all of us to put all our efforts towards that direction. But I'm really hopeful that will happen.
Thank you so much, Kunal. Rather, I always have my apprehensions wherein not sure where we are heading to, because if the AI starts controlling human beings, and should I say, in the much more advanced countries, and I'll put China also in that. Okay, US, China, and rest of the developed countries start controlling the lesser developed countries. So through AI and machines. Uh, so the ethical stuff is it's itself a different topic, but then how long, or what all you should be interfering in consumers life, or knowing about customers behavior, owing to privacy issues and all. So it's a matter of different discussion altogether. But thank you, Kunal. Coming back to my last question, and then we'll take up question from Pradeep. Pradeep, I will unmute you so that you can ask your question directly to Rupesh. So Rupesh, a quick one here. uh, what are the new technologies or tools the marketeer must keep a watch on for the near future, which would benefit him? Over to you.
Yeah, I think this is a this will take a while to respond to, so but I'll keep it crisp, right? I kind of look at this in what I call the ABCD, which is having the awareness, understanding your business, understanding your customers, and leveraging your data. When I say awareness, I'm not talking about the technical jargon of awareness from as a marketer, but more about situational awareness, right? Understanding where your value chain is headed in terms of as a GTM organization, whether it's product strategy, PR and AR machinery, and of course sales. But having that familiarization and a strategic guidance is an excellent way for or tool for marketer to understand how to position themselves on the at the right table. The second is business, and this is kind of taking a notch higher than situational awareness. Is how do you layer that situational awareness with respect to the market? It's a lot easier when it comes to publicly listed companies, because you will have the P&L data, you'll have the investor data, and that kind of helps you understand where your organization's bets are going to be hedged, whether it is in the growth areas, in the decline areas, and in the focus areas for the next 3 to 5 years. And that gives, and if a marketer can bring that perspective from a marketing lens to the table, that adds tremendous value to the business and to marketer as well. The second is customers, and I've been emphasizing this, I think through and through, is if you don't understand your customers, there is no way you can win. So I think every marketer should kind of think about as much about customers as possible. And I think in terms of data, there is so much robustness in the CRM solutions and the analytics solutions that a lot of companies leverage. So understanding how customers are consuming and interacting and engaging with the content will help define things like lifetime value metrics, which a lot of marketing leaders want to attribute to the investments that they're making to grow the business. And the last point in terms of data is really think about what is your current data core telling you about your customers and prospects. What is the delta in terms of your data stream that you need to make better decisions? It could be things like industry benchmarks, or propensity and intent, or persona deficit in your current CRM. And I think the last thing is think about ROI modeling that would help you report on all of the investments per dollar for every product sale. to a contact, because then you can clearly justify the ROI that you're bringing into the organization. I think there's no dearth of marketing technology that can be deployed today. I think it's just a matter of how marketers view this as a journey and not as a break fix measure to add to their tech stack. So there's no one answer. What are the tools? There are many, but I think understanding, being aware, being close to your business and your customers, and understanding your current data set will be very important.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Rupesh. There's one more question for you from the audience. He's asking Pradeep, should we reach end customer through regional or global branding, or should we approach the end customer through various methods like DM, empathy, etc.?
Yeah, look, it's hard in a global organization. It's hard to do global versus regional. There will always be an 80-20 trade-off. So 80% of what we do it has to have that consistency from a global point of view in terms of messaging or what have you. But that 20% of a regional shift that you make to reach your audiences and the nuances of the audiences better is totally up to the CMO of the region, right, as we call it. And that's how we operate. We make sure that all of our marketers are given the flexibility to do what is right by their customers. So to me, based on what I said, those three things are something that we use as my team and a lot of our folks, my peers in the region. We deploy a lot of those learnings and make sure that we follow that. And each organization will have that bit of flexibility. So yes, have that trade-off, but at the same time, make sure that you align with your overall messaging as such.
Thank you so much, Rupesh. Well, it has been a very interesting and learning session with Dev, Kunal, and Rupesh. I've taken my notes, and just to save time, I'm not repeating what I took notes on. Okay, we have got one more question. Let's pick it up. Chinmay, let me unmute you so that you can ask the question directly. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question directly? Chinmay, I have unmuted you. Yeah. Please introduce yourself and you can ask the question, Chinmay.
Hey, my name's Chinmay. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. I actually work in Akamai as well. I just want to, there were some interesting points made by Kunal and Rupesh about IoT and a lot of data, right? And so with technology improving, what does this mean for aspiring marketers? And if everything's heading towards automation, what does it mean that our company is going to rely less on hiring marketing teams and rely more on data? And where do you see the market heading?
Before the panel answers, Chinmay, which company you work with?
I actually work at Akamai Technologies itself. So
Akamai, okay. Not sure who wants to answer.
I can take a stab at that, and maybe then Dev and Rupesh can possibly just add on their thoughts. So here's my take, Chinmay. Right now, the way I see this unfold is that there's obviously going to be increased automation in the years to come, right? But the way I see it is that automation and largely artificial intelligence right now is focused on removing those the drudgery that we have in our everyday work, right? So it's that repeatable, automable tasks that they're really focused on, right? So that goes first, right?
Yeah.
The great part about being in marketing is that it's just as much about creativity as it is about being analytical in nature, right? It's at the cross junction is where we really operate in. So while tomorrow's marketer, and in fact even today's marketer, is expected to be analytical in nature, needs to have the know-how of how to play around with data to get that insights out. He's also in ways more than one expected to be creative, and that creativity is our X factor, right? So my quick answer there would be that right now it's an able assistant to us. It automates a lot of our tasks. It brings in the productivity, brings in that efficiency that we need, and it gives us scale to really operate, right? So that's my quick answer. And Rupesh, Dave, feel free to chip in your thoughts.
I think you are absolutely right, Kunal. And as you said, it's enablers, right? So they really help enable, but the creativity and the creative juice just comes in from people, right? So I see this I see this in a different way. I see this as a support system which is growing and evolving and getting innovative day by day, and it's just going to help marketeers to grow, right? So grow creatively, analytically, and in all other aspects.
All right.
I think Kunal
Yeah.
and Dave kind of took most all the points, right? I have nothing more to add. Those were really well put together.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I also echo the same, wherein it won't be so that the companies are going to cut down on hiring marketing teams, but then of course they would be looking for people who are skilled better to work with the latest tools and techniques, right? Who understand those terms and technologies as well, right? Not to the core, but who understand as to what is AR and what is VR and how it can be leveraged, how use cases can be generated, so on and so forth. All right, we can keep going on, but we are already 12 minutes over and above our time. So I sincerely thank our panelists. It has been extremely enriching session for me, and I hope for each one of you. Hope you liked the event as much as I did. Thanks to our panelists for making it so pointed discussion. As I said, you can watch the past Marketing Mondays session on www.cxotv.news. Keep watching for more interesting upcoming session under Marketing Mondays. I wish you all success and a great week ahead. Thank you. Stay safe. Cheers. Bye-bye.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.